what the quiet ones know that we don't. In a world filled with noise, constant notifications, endless conversations, and the pressure to always have an opinion, there's something extraordinary about those who choose silence. Their calm presence isn't passive, it's powerful. While others rush to fill the air with words, these individuals seem to know something we don't. They aren't just avoiding the spotlight, they're embracing a deeper understanding of life that words alone cannot capture. Imagine this. A single drop of water falls into a still pond. The ripples it creates are gentle, yet they reach every corner of the water. Such is the impact of wisdom shaped by mindfulness and compassion. In Buddhism, this wisdom is rooted in right speech, a practice that goes beyond simply speaking the truth. It teaches us that every word carries weight, and sometimes, the wisest thing to say is nothing at all. But let's be honest. In our daily lives, how often do we use words carelessly? How often do we speak without thinking, only to regret it later? Or worse, how often do we cling to beliefs and attitudes that limit us, beliefs reflected in the very things we say? The Buddhist teachings remind us that words are mirrors of the mind. They reveal our attachments, fears, and sometimes even ignorance. Yet, they also hold the potential for transformation. By becoming more mindful of what we say and what we choose not to say, we can unlock the path to clarity, peace, and profound inner growth. Today, we'll explore 7 specific phrases that wise people, especially those inspired by Buddhist philosophy, avoid saying. These aren't just random sentences, they're gateways to understanding the hidden patterns that shape our thoughts and actions. More importantly, we'll uncover how shifting these patterns can lead to a more meaningful and fulfilling life. This isn't about learning to stay quiet for the sake of silence. It's about recognizing the power of intentional speech and cultivating a mindset of awareness and compassion. Along this journey, we'll draw from timeless Buddhist teachings, practical insights, and real-life reflections to help you transform the way you approach life and the way you communicate with yourself and others. And if you want to continue exploring profound lessons like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on our channel. Turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any new content. Share this video with friends who might be seeking peace and wisdom in their lives. Because sometimes, the beginning of someone's transformation can start with a single video like this. Ready to dive in? Let's explore the wisdom that lies beyond words. 1. I already know that. True wisdom, as introduced earlier, often reveals itself not through speech, but through presence, through what we choose to embody rather than proclaim. This idea sets the stage for a closer examination of a phrase many of us have said or thought. I already know that. On the surface, it seems harmless, a simple acknowledgement of familiarity, but beneath it lies a subtle barrier, one that prevents us from growing, from learning, and ultimately from truly understanding. In Buddhism, knowledge is seen as the start of a journey, not its destination. The phrase, I already know that, can be a quiet declaration of complacency, a belief that there's nothing left to discover or apply. It's as if the mind has closed a door to possibility, signaling, I've arrived, there's nowhere else to go. But the Buddhist teachings remind us that knowledge, without action or reflection, is like a seed that's never planted. It holds potential, but it cannot bear fruit unless nurtured. There's a story often told in Zen circles about a scholar who visited a master, eager to showcase his intellect. The master, welcoming him, began to pour tea into the scholar's cup. When the tea reached the brim, the master continued pouring. The scholar, puzzled, said, "The cup is full. Why do you keep pouring?" The master replied, "Like this cup, you are full of your own ideas. How can I teach you unless you first empty your cup?" This story isn't just about the scholar, it's about all of us. How often do we approach life, conversations, or teachings with a full cup, so sure of what we already know that we leave no room for more? Think of a time when you heard advice you were already familiar with. Perhaps someone told you to breathe deeply when stressed, or to exercise regularly for better health. The first reaction for many is to nod politely, thinking, I've heard this 100 times before. But hearing something and living it are entirely different. Knowing that meditation calms the mind is not the same as practicing it daily. Understanding the importance of compassion doesn't automatically make us act kindly when we're frustrated or impatient. This distinction between intellectual grasp and embodied wisdom is critical. The Buddha himself emphasized it repeatedly. He didn't encourage his followers to simply accept his teachings, but to test them, to live them, and to see their truth through experience. Knowledge is a beginning, a spark, but it's the consistent practice, the application of that knowledge in the messiness of everyday life, that transforms it into wisdom. When we say, "I already know that," what we're often doing is protecting ourselves. It's a way of saying, "I don't need to engage further. I'm fine where I am." It's comfortable, but comfort, while pleasant, rarely leads to growth. Growth asks us to remain open, to listen, and to challenge ourselves. It asks us to admit that no matter how much we think we know, there's always more to learn. Let's take the example of compassion. Most of us believe we're compassionate people. We've read about its value, maybe even practiced it in obvious ways. But are we compassionate in the small, unnoticed moments? Do we show compassion to the coworker who interrupts us, the stranger who cuts us off in traffic, or even to ourselves when we fall short of our expectations? Often, the answer is no, and it's not because we lack the knowledge. It's because we haven't fully integrated it into how we live. The same goes for mindfulness. How many times have you heard the advice to be present? It's a simple phrase, but its depth can take a lifetime to uncover. Being present isn't just about sitting quietly or focusing on your breath for a moment. It's about showing up fully for whatever is happening, even when it's uncomfortable or mundane. If someone were to remind you today to practice mindfulness, would your first thought be, "I already know that"? If so, ask yourself, are you truly living it? Are you present in your conversations, in your meals, in your moments of joy and sorrow? Or are you simply carrying the knowledge like a passenger, never letting it take the wheel? Saying, "I already know that," is like owning a beautiful instrument but never learning to play it. The potential is there, but without practice, it remains unrealized. And when we dismiss new perspectives or reminders because they seem familiar, we miss the chance to refine, deepen, and grow. The next time you're tempted to utter or think this phrase, pause. Ask yourself, am I living this knowledge? Have I explored it fully? Or am I brushing it aside because it feels repetitive? Imagine what could happen if, instead of closing the door with "I already know," you opened it wider with curiosity. Every reminder, every repeated lesson, is an opportunity to see something anew, to bring more intention into your actions, and to uncover layers of understanding you didn't know were there. Wisdom, after all, isn't about collecting information. It's about transformation. And transformation happens when we approach life with an empty cup, ready to receive, to practice, and to grow. Let your actions, not your words, be the evidence of what you truly know. In doing so, you may find that even the simplest truths, ones you thought you already understood, hold endless depths to explore. 2. That's not fair. The journey of wisdom often begins with letting go of the need for life to conform to our expectations. In the previous reflection, we explored how the belief, "I already know that," can close doors to growth. Similarly, the phrase "that's not fair" reveals another barrier. Our attachment to the idea that life should follow a set of rules that align with our desires. Yet, as the Buddha taught, life is inherently marked by impermanence and dukkha, or suffering. Fairness, as we understand it, is not a law of the universe, it is a human construct, often at odds with the natural flow of existence. Imagine walking through a garden. You see flowers blooming in vibrant colors, but next to them, some plants have withered. A gardener might tell you that the thriving flowers were nurtured with care, watered regularly, and exposed to just the right amount of sunlight. Meanwhile, the withered plants may have suffered from neglect, poor soil, or an unexpected frost. Is it fair? Perhaps not in the sense of equal treatment, but it is entirely consistent with the causes and conditions at play. Life operates in much the same way. Our experiences are shaped not by a promise of fairness, but by the interplay of karma, our actions, and the environment in which they manifest. When we say, "That's not fair," it often stems from a desire for control, a belief that the universe owes us balance. We expect effort to lead to reward, virtue to bring happiness, and wrongdoing to meet immediate justice. But karma doesn't work on our timeline, nor does it adhere to our sense of justice. Karma is a complex web of causes and effects, rippling through time in ways we cannot always see. What we experience today is the result of seeds planted long ago, some by us and others by those who came before us. Take a moment to consider a time when life felt deeply unfair. Perhaps you worked tirelessly for a promotion only to see it go to someone else. Maybe you lost something or someone precious without understanding why. It's natural to feel frustration, sadness, or even anger in such moments. These emotions arise from our very human longing for predictability and justice. Yet, Buddhist philosophy invites us to look deeper. Instead of fixating on what feels unfair, we are encouraged to ask, what seeds am I planting today? This shift from blame to accountability transforms our perspective and empowers us to act wisely. The Buddha often used the analogy of planting seeds to explain karma. Imagine two farmers. One diligently tills the soil, waters the fields, and waits patiently for the harvest. The other scatters seeds carelessly and neglects their care. When the season changes, the first farmer reaps an abundant harvest, while the second faces barren fields. The outcome is not about fairness, it's about effort, attention, and timing. However, even the most diligent farmer cannot control the weather. A sudden drought or flood could affect both equally, reminding us that while we have influence over our actions, some aspects of life are simply beyond our control. Understanding this brings us to a place of acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means seeing life as it is, not as we wish it to be. It means recognizing that while life may not always be fair, we always have a choice in how we respond. When we let go of the need for fairness, we free ourselves from the grip of resentment and open the door to resilience. Acceptance allows us to move forward, not as victims of circumstance, but as active participants in shaping our lives. Consider the story of a man who lost his business in a fire. At first, he was consumed by anger and despair, lamenting the unfairness of losing everything he had built. But one day, while sitting among the ashes, he realized that his grief was holding him back from rebuilding. He began to see the fire not as a punishment, but as an opportunity to start anew. Slowly, he replanted the seeds of his business, this time with greater care and wisdom. Years later, his new venture thrived, not because life had suddenly become fair, but because he chose to respond with courage and determination. This is the essence of Buddhist wisdom. Life's inherent unpredictability is not an obstacle but a teacher. Each challenge, no matter how unfair it may seem, carries within it the potential for growth. When we stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What can I learn?" we shift from a place of suffering to a place of empowerment. It's important to remember, too, that fairness is often a matter of perspective. What seems unfair to us may be seen differently by someone else. A missed opportunity might feel like a loss today, but could lead to a path more aligned with our purpose tomorrow. What appears as injustice in the moment may later reveal itself as a lesson we needed to learn. Trusting in the unfolding of life, even when it feels unfair, is an act of faith, not blind faith, but faith in the workings of karma and the wisdom of impermanence. As you reflect on your own life, think about the seeds you are planting. Are your actions rooted in kindness, patience, and understanding? Or are they driven by frustration and a sense of entitlement? Remember, the seeds you sow today will shape the experiences you encounter in the future. Instead of dwelling on the unfairness of past events, focus on cultivating the conditions for a brighter, more harmonious tomorrow. Life may never be perfectly fair, but it doesn't need to be. Fairness is not the goal. Wisdom, compassion, and resilience are. The next time you catch yourself thinking, "That's not fair," pause and consider what you can control. Release the grip of resentment and embrace the opportunity to grow. When you do, you'll find that life's uncertainties are not barriers but stepping stones to a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. 3. I deserve this. as we move through life, the words we use often reveal what lies beneath the surface of our thoughts and feelings. In the last reflection, we explored the idea of fairness and how our attachment to it can lead to unnecessary suffering. Now, we turn to another common belief that quietly shapes our actions and emotions. I deserve this. On the surface, it seems harmless, maybe even empowering. Yet in Buddhist philosophy, this notion is closely tied to attachment and ego, both of which are barriers to true liberation. The idea of deserving something implies a transaction with the universe, as if our efforts or sacrifices guarantee specific outcomes. We think, I worked hard, so I deserve success, or I've been kind, so I deserve kindness in return. But life rarely unfolds according to our expectations, and when it doesn't, the result is often frustration, resentment, or even despair. The Buddha's teaching on anatta, or non-self, reminds us that the very concept of I is an illusion. If there is no fixed self, then what does it mean to deserve anything? This perspective invites us to let go of entitlement and embrace a mindset rooted in humility and service. There's a story from Buddhist tradition about a monk who was gifted a golden bowl by a wealthy patron. The bowl, a symbol of the patron's admiration for the monk's virtue, was exquisite, far more beautiful than the simple clay bowl he had been using. At first, the monk appreciated the bowl with gratitude, but over time, he began to feel a sense of pride. He thought, surely, I deserve such a fine possession because of my discipline and humility. One day, the golden bowl was stolen. The monk, who had always been known for his peace and composure, found himself overwhelmed by anger and grief. In his reflection, he realized that his attachment to the bowl had become a source of suffering. His peace of mind, once rooted in simplicity and detachment, had been tied to something impermanent. This story holds a mirror to our own lives. How often do we tie our happiness to what we believe we deserve? A promotion, a relationship, recognition, or even material comfort. When these things don't come to us, or worse, are taken away, we feel a sense of injustice. But the truth is, life doesn't operate on a system of rewards and entitlements. The universe doesn't keep a ledger of our actions to determine what we are owed. Clinging to this belief only sets us up for disappointment. Instead of asking, what do I deserve? Buddhist teachings encourage us to shift the question, how can I serve? This small change in perspective transforms entitlement into gratitude and effort. When we focus on serving others, contributing to the greater good, or simply doing our best without attachment to outcomes, we align ourselves with the Dharma. This alignment fosters not only inner peace, but also a sense of fulfillment that transcends the ups and downs of life. Think about a time when you felt you deserved something, a reward, an acknowledgement, or an opportunity, but didn't receive it. How did it affect you? Did it lead to feelings of bitterness or inadequacy? Now, imagine letting go of the notion of deserving and focusing instead on the intrinsic value of your actions. When we act out of compassion, generosity, or dedication without expecting anything in return, our efforts become expressions of our true nature rather than means to an end. This mindset is liberating because it frees us from the emotional roller coaster of unmet expectations. The Buddha often taught about the dangers of attachment, not just to material possessions but also to ideas and identities. The belief that I deserve this is, at its core, an attachment to a fixed sense of self. It says, I am this kind of person, and therefore I should have this kind of life. But life, as we know, is impermanent and unpredictable. By releasing our grip on entitlement, we create space for acceptance, resilience, and genuine joy. There's a profound sense of freedom in shifting from entitlement to gratitude. Instead of seeing the world through the lens of what we lack, we begin to see it through the abundance of what we already have. Consider the simple act of breathing. How often do we pause to appreciate the miracle of breath, the foundation of our existence? We don't deserve the air we breathe. It is simply given, and yet, it sustains us every moment of our lives. When we approach life with this sense of awe and gratitude, the idea of deserving fades into the background. replaced by a deep appreciation for what is. This perspective doesn't mean we should abandon our goals or stop striving for improvement. It means approaching our efforts with a sense of purpose rather than entitlement. For example, working hard for a promotion isn't about deserving the title or salary. It's about growing, learning, and contributing meaningfully to your organization. When the focus shifts from "I deserve" to "I aspire to serve," the journey becomes as rewarding as the destination. It's also important to recognize the difference between entitlement and self-worth. Letting go of "I deserve this" doesn't mean undervaluing yourself or accepting mistreatment. On the contrary, self-worth is about recognizing your inherent value as a human being, independent of external circumstances. Entitlement looks outward, demanding validation from the world. Self-worth looks inward, finding peace in your own being. As you reflect on this, consider what attachments might be hidden behind your sense of deserving. Are you tying your happiness to an outcome or possession? What would it feel like to let go of that attachment and focus on serving others or simply doing your best? The path of liberation is not about accumulating what we think we deserve, but about shedding the illusions that keep us from seeing clearly. When we stop asking, "What do I deserve?" and start asking, "How can I serve?" we align ourselves with the flow of life. We become less concerned with receiving and more focused on giving. And in that giving, we discover a fulfillment that no entitlement could ever provide. Let your actions be guided not by what you think you're owed, but by the joy of contributing to the world around you. In doing so, you may find that the peace and happiness you seek were never tied to what you deserved. They were always within you, waiting to be uncovered. 4. I'm too old or too young for this. Life often presents us with opportunities disguised as challenges. Yet, one of the most common reasons people give for stepping back is their age. Whether it's "I'm too young for this" or "I'm too old for that," these thoughts create invisible barriers, holding us back from exploring our true potential. In the previous reflection, we touched upon the idea of releasing entitlement and shifting our focus from "What do I deserve?" to "How can I serve?" This shift teaches us to see beyond our self-imposed limitations. And the same principle applies to the stories we tell ourselves about age. Buddhist teachings remind us that growth isn't confined to any stage of life. It's a continuous process shaped by our mindset. Age, in its essence, is just a number. It measures the passing of time, but it does not define your capability, wisdom, or potential. In Buddhism, the concept of impermanence reminds us that every moment is new, offering infinite possibilities. Each day, regardless of whether we are 18 or 80, is an invitation to learn, to grow, and to connect more deeply with the Dharma. Take the story of Rahula, the Buddha's son, as an example. Rahula became a novice monk at a very young age, yet his age was never seen as a limitation. The Buddha entrusted him with profound teachings, and Rahula, with humility and dedication, absorbed them. Despite his youth, he demonstrated wisdom beyond his years. He approached life with curiosity and openness, embracing the lessons of the Dharma with the clarity of a beginner's mind. His story shows that even at a young age, with the right attitude, one can embark on a path of deep transformation. On the other hand, consider Mahakassapa, one of the Buddha's most revered disciples. Unlike Rahula, Mahakassapa embraced the monastic life later in life. He had already lived through many seasons, accumulating experience and perspective. Yet, his age did not hinder him. Instead, it became a source of strength. Mahakassapa used the wisdom gained from his years to deepen his practice, ultimately achieving great insight. His story serves as a reminder that it is never too late to begin anew, to pursue wisdom, or to align your life with your highest values. These stories illustrate a powerful truth. Whether you are young or old, your potential is not determined by your age, but by your willingness to step into the unknown. Often, when we say, "I'm too young" or "I'm too old," what we're really expressing is fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, or even fear of change. These excuses are protective mechanisms, designed to keep us in our comfort zones. But growth never happens in comfort. It happens when we face our fears and choose courage instead. Imagine a young person who dreams of starting a business but hesitates because they think they lack experience. Or an older individual who longs to learn a new skill but feels it's too late. Both are allowing their age to dictate their actions, missing the point that life's greatest achievements often begin with the decision to try. The Dharma teaches us to see beyond these mental constructs and recognize the limitless potential within us. Consider the impermanence of life itself. Every moment is fleeting, and with it, the excuses we cling to lose their grip. What if, instead of seeing age as a barrier, we reframed it as an advantage? Youth comes with energy, creativity, and the freedom to take risks. Age brings wisdom, patience, and a deeper understanding of what truly matters. Both stages of life offer unique strengths that can be harnessed to achieve great things. Think about the moments in your own life when you felt limited by your age. Were you too young to be taken seriously? Too old to feel relevant? What if, in those moments, you had chosen to focus on what you could do rather than what you couldn't? The truth is, the world is full of examples of people defying age-related expectations. Malala Yousafzai became a global advocate for education as a teenager. Colonel Sanders started KFC in his 60s. These individuals refused to let age define them, and their courage inspired countless others. In Buddhism, there's a term known as beginner's mind, which refers to approaching life with the openness and curiosity of a novice. This mindset isn't reserved for the young. It's available to all of us, regardless of how many years we've lived. When we cultivate beginner's mind, we let go of preconceived notions about what we can or cannot do. We open ourselves to new possibilities, embracing each experience as an opportunity for growth. At the same time, the Dharma encourages us to honor the wisdom that comes with age. Experience brings perspective, and with it, the ability to approach challenges with a steady and compassionate heart. As we grow older, we have the chance to mentor others, to share our insights, and to lead by example. In this way, both youth and age become gifts, each offering something valuable to the journey. When you find yourself saying, "I'm too young," or "I'm too old," pause and ask yourself, is this belief rooted in fear? What would happen if I replaced it with courage? The Buddhist teachings remind us that the path to enlightenment is open to all, regardless of age. What matters is not the years behind us, but the intention and effort we bring to the present moment. As you move forward, consider how you can embrace the stage of life you're in right now. If you're young, lean into your creativity and fearlessness. Take risks, make mistakes, and learn from them. If you're older, draw upon your wisdom and resilience. Share your knowledge, pursue the passions you've set aside, and inspire others with your perseverance. The Dharma is a guide for all of us, at every age, showing us how to live with purpose and grace. Ultimately, age is not a limitation, it's a perspective. It's not the number of years that defines us, but how we choose to use them. Whether you're starting your journey or deepening it, remember that every moment is a chance to grow. When we let go of excuses and embrace the possibilities before us, we discover that the only thing standing in our way is the story we tell ourselves. So, rewrite that story. Let it be one of courage, growth, and boundless potential, no matter how many candles are on your cake. 5. They're just lucky. As we reflect on the stories we tell ourselves, it's easy to see how phrases like, "I'm too old," or "I'm too young" can limit us. But another story, often whispered quietly in our minds, or even spoken aloud, is, "They're just lucky." It's a simple statement, one that can feel harmless, but it carries an undercurrent of envy and resignation. It suggests that success is random, that it happens by chance, and that those who achieve great things were simply in the right place at the right time. Yet in Buddhism, we're taught to see life differently, not through the lens of luck, but through karma and effort. When we dismiss someone's success as mere luck, we overlook the dedication, discipline, and persistence that likely brought them there. The Buddhist teachings on right effort remind us that progress, whether spiritual or worldly, requires consistent action, intention, and resilience. Luck, if it plays a role at all, is often the byproduct of preparation meeting opportunity. The moments we perceive as luck are often the culmination of unseen struggles, quiet sacrifices, and tireless work. Imagine someone who has built a thriving business. To the outside world, it may look like they stumbled upon success, but what isn't visible are the late nights, the failures they endured, the risks they took, and the countless hours spent refining their craft. Similarly, think of an artist whose work seems effortless. What we see is the final masterpiece, but what we don't see are the years of practice, the moments of doubt, and the mistakes that shape their skill. Calling it luck diminishes their journey and also robs us of the chance to learn from their example. In Buddhist philosophy, karma is often misunderstood as a simple system of reward and punishment, but it's much more nuanced than that. Karma is about cause and effect, the actions we take, the intentions behind them, and the habits we cultivate create ripples that shape our lives. When someone succeeds, it's not just luck. It's the result of causes and conditions they've nurtured over time. Their hard work, the relationships they've built, and the choices they've made all contribute to the outcomes we see. Instead of saying, "They're just lucky," Buddhism encourages us to approach such situations with curiosity and humility. When we see someone who has achieved something we admire, we can ask ourselves, what seeds did they plant to get here? What can I learn from their journey? This shift in perspective transforms envy into inspiration. Rather than feeling discouraged by someone else's success, we begin to see it as evidence of what's possible when we apply effort and intention. Take the story of the Buddha himself. After leaving his life as a prince, he embarked on a long and arduous journey to seek enlightenment. It wasn't luck that led him to enlightenment. It was his unwavering determination, his willingness to confront suffering, and his deep practice of mindfulness and compassion. Even when he achieved liberation, the Buddha didn't claim it as his alone. He taught others how to walk the same path, emphasizing that anyone willing to cultivate the right causes and conditions could achieve the same. Now, let's turn inward. Think about a time when you achieved something meaningful in your own life. Perhaps it was a goal you worked hard to reach, a skill you developed, or a challenge you overcame. Was it luck? Or was it your persistence, your adaptability, and your focus that led to success? Reflecting on our own experiences helps us see that effort, not luck, is the foundation of meaningful achievements. At the same time, it's important to recognize that external circumstances do play a role. Not everyone starts from the same place, and some people face greater obstacles than others. But even in these situations, it's effort that determines how we respond to those circumstances. Two people may face the same challenge, but their choices, how they think, act, and persevere, will shape their outcomes in different ways. In this sense, success isn't about the hand we're dealt, but how we play it. When we stop attributing success solely to luck, we also take back our own power. If success were entirely random, it would mean we have no control over our lives. But the Buddha's teachings remind us that we do. By cultivating mindfulness, practicing right effort, and letting go of distractions, we create the conditions for success in our own lives. It doesn't mean the path will always be smooth or easy, but it does mean that our actions matter. There's a common saying, "The harder I work, the luckier I get." While not a Buddhist teaching, it resonates deeply with the principle of karma. Every effort we make, every step we take toward our goals, increases the likelihood that we'll encounter opportunities. What looks like luck to others is often the result of consistent, intentional work behind the scenes. This perspective also invites us to practice gratitude. When we achieve something, it's important to acknowledge the support we've received along the way, the mentors who guided us, the friends who encouraged us, and even the challenges that taught us resilience. Gratitude keeps us grounded and reminds us that success is rarely a solo journey. Finally, letting go of the belief in just luck allows us to approach life with more compassion. When we see others succeed, we can celebrate their achievements without envy. When we see someone struggling, we can offer support, knowing that effort alone isn't always enough. By shifting our mindset from comparison to connection, we cultivate a sense of community and shared purpose. The next time you catch yourself thinking, "They're just lucky," pause and reflect. What can you learn from their journey? How can you apply those lessons to your own life? And most importantly, How can you begin planting the seeds today that will create the conditions for your own growth? When we embrace the Buddhist teaching of right effort, we stop waiting for luck to find us and start creating opportunities through our actions. In doing so, we not only move closer to our goals, but also discover the deeper joy of living with intention and purpose. 6. That's too risky. In life, we often find ourselves standing at the edge of decisions that feel overwhelming. That's too risky, we say, as if those words could shield us from uncertainty. But as we've explored in earlier reflections, much of what holds us back, whether it's attributing success to luck or believing we're too old or too young, is rooted in fear. And here, too, the fear of risk becomes a wall, separating us from the growth and fulfillment waiting on the other side. Buddhism reminds us that life itself is a risk, woven with impermanence and unpredictability. Safety, while comforting, is often an illusion, and clinging to it can leave us stuck, watching life pass by rather than fully living it. The Buddha understood that fear of risk stems from our attachment to permanence and our aversion to change. We seek security in routines, possessions, and relationships, hoping they will protect us from life's uncertainties. But nothing in this world is fixed. Everything we hold on to, our plans, our identities, even our bodies, is subject to change. The Dharma teaches us not to avoid risk, but to embrace it as an integral part of existence. Each moment is an opportunity to step into the unknown with courage, trusting in the wisdom of mindfulness and compassion to guide us. Consider the story of a monk meditating alone in a forest, surrounded by wild animals. The forest was dark, and the sounds of rustling leaves and distant growls filled the air. Fear crept into his mind, whispering that he should leave, that it was too dangerous to stay. But the monk remained steadfast. He focused on his breath, his practice, and the purity of his intentions. Instead of succumbing to fear, he used it as a tool for awareness, observing how it rose and fell like waves. Over time, his courage grew, and the forest no longer felt like a threat, but a teacher. The wild animals became a part of the environment he learned to coexist with. This story illustrates the Buddhist ideal of facing uncertainty with mindfulness, using fear not as a barrier but as a stepping stone to greater understanding. When we label something as too risky, we're often projecting our fears of failure, judgment, or loss onto the unknown. But is staying stagnant really safer? Imagine someone who dreams of changing careers but hesitates, worried about the financial and social risks. Or someone who longs to pursue a passion but fears the possibility of failing. They stay in their comfort zone, convincing themselves that it's the responsible choice. Yet, over time, they may find themselves weighed down by regret, wondering what might have been. The Buddhist teachings invite us to reframe risk, not as something to fear, but as a natural part of growth. To live fully is to embrace the impermanence of life and to trust in our ability to adapt, no matter what challenges arise. When fear of risk arises, mindfulness becomes our greatest ally. Instead of letting fear control us, we can pause, breathe, and examine it with curiosity. Ask yourself, what is the worst that could happen? Often, you'll realize that the imagined consequences are far less dire than they first seemed. Then, ask yourself, what is the best that could happen? By shifting your focus to the potential benefits, you open your mind to possibilities and move away from a mindset of limitation. Risk is not something to eliminate, but to manage. The Buddha didn't advocate reckless actions. He encouraged wise effort. Taking calculated risks means assessing the situation, preparing as much as possible, and then taking the leap with faith in yourself and the Dharma. It's about finding balance, neither avoiding challenges out of fear nor diving in without thought. Think of a bird perched on a branch. It doesn't fear the branch breaking because its trust is in its ability to fly. Similarly, when we develop trust in our inner strength and resilience, the uncertainties of life become less daunting. Another perspective Buddhism offers is the concept of interdependence. Our actions ripple outward, affecting not just ourselves but the world around us. When we take risks aligned with compassion and purpose, we contribute to something greater than ourselves. This sense of interconnectedness can provide the courage to act, knowing that our efforts, however uncertain, are part of a larger, meaningful whole. Reflect on moments in your own life when you faced risk. Perhaps there was a time when you took a chance on a relationship, a career, or a personal goal. What did you learn from that experience? Even if things didn't turn out as planned, chances are you grew in ways you couldn't have anticipated. Growth doesn't always come from success. It often comes from the lessons we learn through failure and perseverance. Each step we take into the unknown teaches us something valuable about ourselves and the world. The irony is that avoiding risk often carries the greatest risk of all. Staying in a job that drains your spirit, avoiding a conversation that needs to be had, or clinging to a routine that no longer serves you. These choices may feel safe in the moment, but over time, they erode your sense of purpose and possibility. The Buddha encouraged his followers to walk the middle way, a path that avoids extremes and embraces mindful action. This applies to how we approach risk as well. It's not about seeking danger for its own sake, but about stepping beyond fear to pursue what truly matters. The next time you find yourself saying, "That's too risky," pause and reflect. What is the risk of staying where you are? What could you gain by taking a step forward? Trust that the same mindfulness and compassion you cultivate in your practice can guide you through uncertainty. Life, after all, is not about avoiding the inevitable changes, but about meeting them with an open heart and a steady mind. Risk is not the enemy. Fear is not the enemy. Both are teachers, inviting us to grow, to learn, and to live more fully. When we embrace them with courage and mindfulness, we find that what once seemed impossible becomes not only possible but deeply rewarding. Every leap we take, no matter how uncertain, is a chance to align more closely with our true selves, to experience life in all its richness, and to discover the boundless strength within. 7. That's not how we've always done it. As we reflect on the stories and beliefs that shape our lives, we come to recognize how often fear plays a subtle but significant role in our decisions. From the reluctance to take risks to the tendency to dismiss others' success as mere luck, these patterns reflect our need for stability and certainty. Yet one of the most persistent barriers to growth is the comfort we find in the familiar, the mindset expressed in the phrase, "That's not how we've always done it." At first glance, it may seem like a commitment to tradition, but more often than not, it's a reflection of our resistance to change and our fear of stepping into the unknown. In Buddhism, tradition is deeply respected, but it is not meant to be a rigid framework. The Buddha himself was a revolutionary thinker who challenged the rituals and dogmas of his time. He rejected the caste system and the blind adherence to rituals devoid of meaning. Instead, he encouraged inquiry, urging his followers to test his teachings for themselves rather than accepting them at face value. His teachings were not about preserving the status quo, but about awakening to deeper truths. This spirit of innovation and adaptability is central to the Dharma, which remains relevant precisely because it evolves with time. The Buddha once said, "Just as the ocean has one taste, the taste of salt, the Dharma has one taste, the taste of liberation." This profound metaphor reminds us that while the forms of practice may change, the essence remains the same. The goal of the Dharma is not to preserve traditions for their own sake, but to guide us toward liberation. Holding on to outdated ways of thinking or doing things can become a hindrance if they no longer serve this purpose. Consider a simple example from daily life. Imagine working on a team where someone suggests a new approach to solving a problem, only to be met with the response, "That's not how we've always done it." This mindset, though often well-intentioned, can stifle creativity and prevent progress. It assumes that the old way is inherently better, not because it's been evaluated or improved, but simply because it's familiar. But as the world changes, so too must our approaches. Clinging to the past can leave us unprepared for the challenges and opportunities of the present. This same principle applies to our personal growth. How many times have we held ourselves back because we were afraid to try something new? Perhaps we've stuck to old habits, not because they were effective, but because they felt safe. Or we've resisted new ideas, fearing they might disrupt our sense of identity or control. Yet growth requires change, and change often requires letting go of what no longer serves us. The Dharma encourages us to balance respect for tradition with openness to innovation. This balance is not about abandoning the past, but about honoring its wisdom while remaining receptive to new possibilities. Think of a tree. Its roots anchor it firmly in the ground, drawing nourishment and stability. But the tree must also grow upward, adapting to sunlight, wind, and the changing seasons. If it clung solely to its roots and refused to grow, it would wither. In the same way, we can honor our roots, our traditions, values, and experiences while reaching toward new horizons. There is a story from the life of the Buddha that beautifully illustrates this balance. When he began teaching, he encountered many individuals who were deeply attached to their rituals and beliefs. One day, a Brahmin priest approached him and asked, "Why should I listen to you when I already follow the ways of my ancestors?" The Buddha responded with a parable about a person crossing a river. He described how this person built a sturdy raft to navigate the waters. Once they reached the other side, the raft had served its purpose. Would it make sense, the Buddha asked, to carry the raft on your back for the rest of your journey? The Brahmin understood the lesson. Traditions, like the raft, are tools. They are meant to help us, not to be burdens we carry indefinitely. This story reminds us that wisdom lies in knowing when to hold on and when to let go. Just because something has worked in the past doesn't mean it's the best choice for the present. Asking ourselves, is the old way serving us, or is it holding us back, invites reflection and growth. It encourages us to approach change not with fear, but with curiosity and discernment. The resistance to change often stems from fear of losing control or of stepping into unfamiliar territory. But the Dharma teaches us to embrace impermanence and uncertainty. By doing so, we discover that change is not something to fear. It is a natural part of life. Every moment is an opportunity to reinvent ourselves, to adapt, and to move closer to our true potential. Consider how this perspective might apply to your own life. Are there areas where you've resisted change because it felt too risky or unsettling? Are there habits, beliefs, or traditions that you continue to follow, not because they serve you, but because they're familiar? What might happen if you allowed yourself to explore new possibilities, trusting that the essence of who you are remains intact even as you grow? Letting go of, "That's not how we've always done it," doesn't mean discarding everything from the past. It means approaching each situation with an open mind, asking what serves the greater good in this moment. It's about honoring the wisdom of tradition while being willing to innovate and evolve. The next time you catch yourself resisting a new idea or clinging to an old way of doing things, pause and reflect. What are you holding on to, and why? Is it truly helping you move forward, or is it keeping you stuck? By embracing change with mindfulness and compassion, you create space for growth, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. The Dharma invites us to walk this path with courage and wisdom, trusting that liberation lies not in holding on, but in letting go. The words we choose and the thoughts they carry have the power to shape not just our reality, but also the lives of those around us. By letting go of phrases that limit us, like, "I already know that," or "that's not fair," we open ourselves to the possibility of a life rooted in mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. These small shifts in perspective may seem simple, but they hold the potential to transform the way we see ourselves, others, and the world. The 7 phrases we've explored today are more than just words. They are reflections of deeper beliefs and patterns that shape our choices. Each one is an opportunity to pause, reflect, and redirect our energy toward growth. When we empty our cup, we create space for learning and humility. When we accept impermanence, we find freedom in change. And when we act with courage and compassion, we align ourselves with the wisdom of the Dharma, a wisdom that doesn't just belong to the Buddha but lives within each of us. These teachings are not abstract theories. They are practical tools for living a life of purpose, resilience, and peace. They remind us that true wisdom is not measured by what we say, but by how we live. It's in the small, mindful choices we make every day, in how we approach challenges, how we treat others, and how we respond to the voice in our own mind that says, "You can't." When we meet that voice with kindness and curiosity, we unlock a path toward transformation. As you move forward, I invite you to carry these insights with you. Let them guide your words, your actions, and your thoughts. Practice speaking mindfully, not just to others, but to yourself. Cultivate compassion in moments of difficulty, for both yourself and those around you. And trust in the path of the Dharma, knowing that each step you take, no matter how small, is a step toward clarity, purpose, and liberation. This journey isn't meant to be perfect, and it's not about never making mistakes. It's about showing up with intention and being willing to grow. So, take a moment to reflect. Which of these phrases do you notice most in your own life? How can you begin to shift your perspective and embrace a new way of thinking? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your reflections and insights. And remember, this community is here to support and uplift you as we all navigate the path of mindfulness and growth together. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Your presence here means more than you know. If you found value in this video, please give it a like, share it with someone who might need these reminders, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue this journey together. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss new content. Let's keep building a space of inspiration and connection where we can grow together, one step at a time. As you step back into your day, may your words carry kindness, your actions reflect wisdom, and your heart remain open to all the possibilities that lie ahead. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep moving forward on this beautiful path. You are exactly where you need to be.